So the other day, while I had some free time, I decided to browse through the various upcoming games or demos on Steam to see if there's anything that I've never heard of that may interest me for a video or a possible future video. Well, while doing that, I came across this small little indie game called Rubinite that just had a demo released. Now this game is being published and developed by Cupdog Games, which after completing the demo, let me just say this game has the potential to be really incredible. If the entire game could keep the quality they displayed in the demo through the entire game when it releases, I can easily see this being a hit for a lot of people next year. Definitely if you're a Soulslike fan who loves challenging but fair boss fights. But now at this point you're probably wondering how the gameplay exactly works in Rubinite. Well, Rubinite's gameplay is pretty straightforward. It's basically a boss rush type game where you venture out and choose a location where you are able to battle out with ferocious beasts known as blood recipients, which after defeating one, you are able to move on to the next area and face the next one. But in between these boss fights, you're able to do a variety of things to improve your character, whose name is Ruby, and progress the story. But we will get to those things in a minute. First, let's talk about what Ruby can actually do. She, for one, is super agile, allowing you to kind of flow around the battlefield as you take on these monsters. Along with that speed, you have a dodge roll, which has a perfect roll mechanic if you dodge at the last possible second. Then, of course, you have your weapon, which you can perform a basic light attack combo with. Now, if this is all the game had to its combat, I would still consider it to be very good, because the controls are super tight and responsive to the point they feel unbelievably good, but it has one mechanic that makes it enter the realm of making the combat truly great to me, and that is the observation gauge system. Which how this works is during combat, Ruby can focus her red eyes on the enemy to build up the observation gauge, which allows her to do a critical strike, which has multiple levels, and these levels are called marks. The higher the mark level, the more damage Ruby can do with a critical strike, which these critical strikes are basically Ruby attacking the pure blood crystals that power these monsters. Now, this system does a really good job rewarding the player for putting themselves in danger thanks to some additional mechanics that deepens it further. First off, if you spend too much time not focusing on an enemy or get hit at any point, your observation gauge will completely reset, which sucks because it's your primary way of dealing damage since your light attacks do very minimum damage. So you'd probably think to yourself, well, if that's the case, I just need to keep my distance from the boss and build up my gauge from safety. But that's where the next mechanic comes into play with the gauge. The further you are from the boss, the slower it builds, and vice versa. The closer you are, the faster it builds. But of course, this means you are constantly in danger and have a higher chance of getting hit. So what chance do you have of filling up the gauge at this point? Well, that's where the final mechanic comes into play. While you're focusing on an enemy, if you perfect dodge while doing this, you will instantly fill one level of your observation gauge, which allows you to fire off a quick critical strike, or if you're feeling skillful, you can perfect dodge multiple attacks quickly to max out the gauge to land a maximum damage critical strike, which by the way, it's also useful sticking close to the enemy if possible since critical strikes could only be performed from a certain distance that's indicated by a white line that pops up letting you know you are close enough to unleash the strike. Anyways, that's how the primary combat works in Rubinite. It really is a fun system that just flowed so well, which I have to give some of the credit of that flow to the incredible boss fights that I got to try in the demo. The animations are super clean and easy to read, which led to none of the attacks feeling unfair, not to mention the boss health bars felt just right for the damage I was outputting. Plus, the few bosses I played against had second faces after I got their health halfway down, which added an extra dynamic to their movesets, which I have a feeling this will be a common theme in the entire full game. Also, when you finally defeat them, you get this cool kind of quick time event where you finish them off, which is really satisfying. Though I don't think you can really fail this, which is a shame. I think it would add a little more tension if you hit the wrong button. The boss would execute you or maybe recover some health back, leading to you having to down them again. But now, before I get into my main concerns with the game, let's talk about what you do outside of these boss fights. So, in between boss fights, you will be experiencing story beats as you follow the main character Ruby's journey as she attempts to get revenge for her fall in Scarlet Kingdom she just so happens to be the princess of. Now, your main base of operations, at least from the experience I got from the demo, features two other characters who are important to the story. A man named Roy, who is kind of this mentor to Ruby and trying to guide her on her journey of revenge and make her the best hunter she can be. Then you have Witchy Wee, I think that's how you say it, which he appears to be this lizard-like creature who basically acts as your main means of improving Ruby's combat effectiveness. You can get additional blood files that basically act as your main way of healing. You can also get talismans, which give a variety of effects like paralyzing a boss after landing a critical strike. Witchy Wee also can increase your talisman slots, so you can equip additional ones, which I do want to say I love the UI in this game. Very simple to understand, and Ruby's animation is pretty awesome and adds a nice little touch to what is normally a very static screen. I also want to note that there is a skill tree, but it was unavailable in this short demo, so I can't comment on that for now. But with all that said, what are my main concerns? Well, my biggest worry is build variety. A game like this just screams for allowing a variety of weapons and builds to spice up the gameplay, but I'm not really sure if we are going to get that or not. From what I've seen, you just have the one weapon, so the talismans and skill tree are really going to have to carry the experience as you rack up playtime. Though I will say after beating the demo, you can replay the bosses in a time attack mode with leaderboards, so even if we are stuck with the one weapon, I'm sure people will definitely optimize the hell out of what's provided to them. It could make for an interesting post-game experience if you're into that kind of thing. Then my other concern isn't really a concern, it's just more of a want. I really wish Rubinite was more than just a boss rush type game. Just walking around the main hub area, taking the beautiful sprite work, music, bits of lore and colorful world makes me wish we actually got full areas to explore with enemies to battle and secrets to find. Though, with that said, if the devs can match the quality they shown in this small demo for Rubinite through the entire game, I really do believe they could have a pretty impressive game here that, like I said before, could easily see a lot of people jumping into to play, definitely if you're a Soulslike fan. Which, if you got some free time, I highly recommend heading over to Steam and trying out the demo right now. I have a feeling you won't be disappointed.